This is how to do the knit stitch, and I'm going to start off with a little bit of advice. So I've cast on and I've done a couple of rows of knitting, and what happens to most beginners is that they find they have increased stitches and they don't know why they have. Well, this is one of the reasons. Can you see this stitch here on my previous row is very big? Now that's a common thing that happens, and there's nothing to worry about that. But one of the things that happens as a beginner is that you take that yarn back and it looks like 2 stitches. That's the wrong thing to do. To start your row, always make sure your yarn, which is coming from the board, is down and back. So that mistake that can happen where you think that stitch there is 2 stitches is out of the way, and you won't increase stitches. So you take your needle and you go into your stitch, so left of the stitch and through the back. You make your cross, you go round the needle, so behind the needle, over the top of it, and it sits nicely into that little gap there, and then you just rock your your needle over and create a stitch. Then take it off. Go into the next stitch, create that cross T shape, take the yarn behind and then over the top of the needle and rock it over and take it off. You can pull it towards you as well when you make the stitch to make it nice and big so they're not so tight. So into the stitch, round the back, over the top, so in front of it, over the top, and then just rock it forward, and there's your stitch. And you take that stitch off the left needle because you've made it onto the right needle. So into the stitch, round the back, over the front, sits nicely in that little gap, rock it over, take the stitch off the left hand needle because you've made one on your right hand needle, into the stitch, round the back, over the top, into that little gap, rock it over, bring the stitch forward, into the stitch, round the back, over the front, sits nicely in that little gap there, rock it over, make your stitch. Now to make it a little bit easier, it doesn't matter how you hold the yarn, but I hold the yarn, so it doesn't matter, but in the end it does matter. So I take the yarn round my little finger, hold it down with those 3 fingers, and that controls the tension. Then with my index finger underneath, it just keeps it there nicely for you. So you put your needle into your stitch, guide the yarn round with your index finger, and by holding on to the needle, because this is all in place here, it puts the yarn in place, so it makes it there ready for you, and then you can just take it off. So into the stitch, guide it round, and that's how you do your knit stitch.